Gather up the glass that we need for the collar. And then we're going to let a lot of it run off of there. As I hold it up, I'm going to let it run back. I go ahead and roll it on the table here to kind of shape the back end of it with a nice wide face to it. Now I'm going to blow it out and blow right through the glass that I have there. Just holding the air pressure in, you see the bubble blows out. Force that air through there and make sure the glass just totally liquefies on the end. That way when I sit down, I've got a nice opened up collar around the end of the bubble, or the pipe, excuse me, that I can shape. Make sure it's clear. And now the diameter of this needs to be just somewhat close to the diameter that I have of the cup that I have in the oven. It's preheated to about 1050 degrees. And you can see just by letting this stay here on the bench, it's cooling down the back end of the glass mostly. It's not, the thicker glass is retaining the heat. So I'm going to go just kind of eyeball the piece and make sure it's about right for picking up. Then I'm going to go to the heat just the surface of the face of this pipe here, this collar. And then I'll go use that heat to stick onto the cup, which will bond it onto this blowpipe. And then I can heat the whole thing and liquefy it, blend it down and blow it out and start doing other stuff to it. That'll be just the beginning of the process for this piece. Let's go here. So, as I heat up the end here, just giving it a little flash heat. Let's go here, and what do you know, it's just the right size. That'll work just fine. I'm going to open up this door to help let some of the heat come out. Kind of soften the blow for the glass to get into that heat, because I got to rush it in here so it doesn't get too cold. And I also need to make sure it doesn't heat up too quickly. So there I go with that. I'm going to come over here and touch it on, and the heat is what sticks it one to the other. So just a light touch, and then I can rush it on over. And just staying in that heat for a little while is a nice soft way to apply the heat to the new glass. I don't want to overheat my collar that I made, but I do need to start building an even heat throughout. So now, close up the doors, kind of regulate the temperature in there a little better. When I come out, I'm going to do a series of rolling out on the table here. Make sure that's nice and clear. Series of rolling it out, which is going to help balance out the temperature. See, it's not a perfect stick, but there it goes. We just land it right down and it evens out. And now you can see it's a bubble on the end of my pipe that I could inflate more. But before I do any of that, I need to balance out the temperature, soften it, and I actually intend on retwisting this spiral pattern that you might see in there. That was a cane roll up that I did another day, another time. And I rolled it up, I made a cup out of it, and I gave it a twist along the way to help encourage a more twisted pattern the next time I picked it up. So this is my time now to start balancing out the heat so that I can really twist these lines into oblivion, just for effect. There's no real need to do it, it's just a color application. but it doesn't work, by the way, until I build up just the right heat throughout the whole body of the piece so that when I'm ready to twist it aggressively, the heat is going to be balanced out into the sweet spot of the bubble, which gives me the nicest, most even twist without something like any buckling or over twisting or separation from the collar. Anything weird like that can happen if it's not heated up properly before you put a lot of pressure on it. I'm gonna go to the bench actually. We'll kind of see how it's moving here. So to help me twist it properly, I'm going to squeeze what's called a jack line in here. This tool is called my jacks. Squeeze a constriction in there so that I can freeze this glass and I can really build the heat into this. I can use that cool glass to hold while twisting to twist the hot glass that will be up there. Now it seems like a lot of back and forth, but that is glass blowing when it comes down to it. There's a lot of heat this area so you can cool this area, so you can cool this area to heat this area. I'm even going to quench it in the water to freeze up that marble. Well, I don't need my hose yet. I'm not ready to blow it out quite yet. I need to focus on building up the even heat. Now I'm hooking up my blow hose, getting the thing very warm, and watch how much it twists. Okay, I just want to true that up. I took a little longer. Ready? Okay. Okay, I got a pretty good twist out of that. I think I can do better. Just got to heat up evenly and go ahead and heat it just enough that it can take another aggressive twist with an air pressure on the inside. I wasn't able to talk because I had air pressure kind of holding steady on the inside to make sure the bubble doesn't collapse. There we go. Now, now that I've got as much of a twist as I think I'll really get well out of it, I'm going to pack it down so I can gather more clear on it. I'm going to use that clear glass that I gather on here to pick up the canes that I put in there, the white canes you saw me put in there ahead of time. So I have to set this bubble up to be gathered on. Okay, I'm packing it down. Yeah, that's a good use of a newspaper right there. Okay, now this shape, this bullet kind of a shape, is going to be what I use to roll up the next amount of canes that are going to be laid on here vertically as I roll across them. Those are the ones that we're heating up in the oven. And this is my measurement. So I don't need much, I just need a little bit because I'm perfectly able to fit this through there. No. Strip off a lot. Get it off of there. Take a measurement, a little fat, that's okay. We'll come over here. Strip it down just a little more. Now I can go in there and I'll bring it right back here. See, they're just going to stick right on. I don't want to overdo it, so I just go in and out, take my time. And the whole point here is to have them evenly spaced. They seem like they're pretty evenly spaced, but I'm going to go ahead and sit down at the bench before the whole mass gets too hot. We're just going to get them truly in place. Start laying them down as they heat. You see they want to start laying down on the surface, which is good. This tip down here is going to get lopped off anyways, so that all my lines come together as one. It's pretty good. No major issues. Move that guy maybe just a bit. But now I can really soak the heat in evenly. Lop that bottom off, and I've got a whole nother cane pattern on here. Vertical pattern now that has twists. We'll use that, and we'll start adding, once I get it packed down, that's when I'm going to pick up my red, and I'm really going to start adding some red all over the whole thing. What'll be fun about this is that the underside of these canes that actually get pushed into the black twisty canes, the black twisty canes are going to get affected by these outside canes getting pushed inward. So they're probably going to show off these really interesting effects, like rifts within the black canes. Go ahead and save that. That's going to be a pretty one. All right. Newspaper. It gives me a nice soft touch against the glass that allows me to cool it more by hand, not by the sharpness of a wooden or a graphite or a steel tool. It's a very direct pressure to touch the glass with, but sometimes all you need to do is cool like a region of the glass. So you might make a full contact with the paper at some point, and at other points you might need to be more direct like I'm doing here. But as I go throughout the piece, you'll see that I do break out the newspaper, and you'll see why it gives me a more specific touch for forming it later in the piece, but not quite yet. They don't really form around the white cane. They will be affected by it. They're different layers separated by a bunch of clear. But the effect of those cooler canes being pushed onto the surface down there and then everything being heated together and blown out will cause these little tiny rifts in the black that we'll be able to see usually after it stretches out quite a bit. You won't see it just yet. See, right now I don't need to force it with any kind of a wood or metal tool. So I'm shaping and cooling the bottom so that I can work my way up and cool the shoulder area. This is the shoulder area, this is the bottom and the foot down there. Give a light inflate and start seeing the way it's working as it blows out. I can see that for now, since I do want to gather glass on the outside of this again, just a thin strip gather, I want to pack this down. I don't need a huge gather that I stick in the furnace and get even more glass on. I need a compacted bubble that's nice and stable for me to gather on. And then when I do, I'll have a nice ability to get a thin layer on the outside of this. Okay, I got a lot of smoke in my eyes. Okay, so now as this cools, you might see the effect I've been kind of referring to there. You might see that the black has kind of a groovy pattern behind it. Instead of just a straight twisted, instead of straight twisty lines, now they're straight groovy twisty lines. So anyways, we're gonna let that cool. Now, in order to let it cool, I'm gonna let it hang and just be what it is for a little bit. As it cools, it'll get down to a nice solid point where I can work with it stably. But then what I'm going to do is have this little tiny chunk of red melted, hopefully by then. And I'll be able to splosh it on right where I want it to. It's a transparent red, and when it looks red, it looks great. It's beautiful. It can be very dark, but it will go with these black and white very well, even if it was too dark, which it won't be because we're going to do it right. You see I got that chunk of red. Thank you to all my new visitors today. Please give my socials a check out, give me a follow, maybe even one of your Prime subscribes. I totally appreciate it. I'm here 3 or 4 days a week, excuse me. And I'm in here making different stuff all the time. Sometimes I'm working with students, other times I'm making orders for Etsy. Other times I'm showing off just for you guys. So please feel free to come back and check in with me. Okay, I've got my piece flashed. I'm going to start nuking the color. I'm going to get in the bench and literally just blob it down really hard and stretch it off so that I can try to save as much as I can to get more than one of these. But I'm trying to get a nice cast off plunge bit of it. It's called a prunt, really. So watch, I'll come out extra hot, hold it up, get in the bench, get the camera. Okay. Okay, now you see I got more glass to use. Okay. Now, as I work these little nipples of red down into the piece, I'm also going to have a chance to finish off getting the texture out of the outside of the piece. You might have noticed there's a little leftover cane texture there. Well, it's all going to get smoothed down together, and then we're going to strip gather on this again. Okay. I got my Now this gather I'm letting run off into the furnace quite a bit, just because I have the core bubble nice and stable and cool. I have the time to let it run off. Here's another time I'll use the newspaper when I don't have a properly shaped wet wooden tool. This gives me a nice ability to cool it very gently and touch just maybe like the bottom of the piece without having to cool the side at the shoulder up there. And it cools this tip down into the bottom for me, which I need to use because I'm constantly trying to cool the glass down here so I can build the heat up to here. As I heat, I'll be stretching, I'll be recooling to build up heat in the top so that when I blow, the bubble is going to blow out evenly into my gather. Ooh, I got some serious sunlight coming in. Okay, that was effective. I got movement there, I got expansion there. Yeah, right, sun's giving me a hand. It's giving me a hindrance. Yes, I'm blinded. I got like the marver in the middle of the shop, just perfectly reflecting the sunlight from outside right in my face while I'm at the hole. Whoops. That's the good stuff. There you go. Cool the bottom. Maybe go a light touch on the side to cool that, and then work my way back to the bottom. Blow gently. Nice. Keep continuing to cool this so that every time when I come out, this continues to stop being the hottest part down there. I want heat up here. My next move is going to be start cutting in jack lines to help stretch and create a shoulder up top here. Speaking of which, I should get my bigger jacks out. Hook up my blow hose. So you see I'm trying to draw out the neck and use as much of the color pattern as I can. Eventually I'll trim it down to the point where there's no color pattern and it will look right. But it doesn't bother me that the color is stretching away. It just shows that I'm pulling in the right spot for now. Okay. Looking all right. Okay, so I'm holding it that way. Try to blow out the shoulder and create a nice wide shoulder that I can use to taper everything from. And now we're going to stretch it taller. Okay, got the base finished up. So far the bottom half looks fine. I'm gonna work on the top half up here next. Need to get this onto a punty. So I'll heat up the top half of the piece up here and flash the rest of it. Throughout the process, you'll start seeing those blotches of red showing up eventually. But they need time to do what's called strike. They need to go through a particular temperature range at a particular speed. And they will. They just need a little more time to show up to the party. So once I take this last flash here, I'm going to go on into the heat, or excuse me, I'm going to hang the piece so I can go over there and get a gather on a punty and start making a punty for this piece. Let that hang out, it'll just stay there and cool. Don't need much, basically just a covering, but a well-shaped covering of the end of the iron here. I'll show you up close a little better. Just even application. Flashing well on this piece. Make sure the temperature has gotten a chance to soak in through the wall a little bit. And buy me some time while I have the punty in the heat. Let's go back over here. My goal is to keep that foot very centered with the rest of the piece. And when I come over here, I'm just going to take a little touch on the bottom. You can see the hotter glass is more fused on. That's a more strong attachment in terms of glass. So just by having that hotter attachment there, I can re-stress out this constriction from earlier and tap. You see it breaks right there. And now I can reheat the whole piece if I want to, or I can concentrate the heat right at the top and heat the neck and move on to the next stage of the process, which is to finish the top third of the piece, because that's a broken edge. In the meantime, go ahead and move that old pipe out of the way.